Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're getting a chance to sit down with fellow Canadian grappler Max Misyura, who's currently training out of Marcelo Garcia's gym in New York City. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to their YouTube channel. If you like what you're seeing and you want to see more athletes, coaches, and featured guests, like and share their stories. We are powered by Spirit Leaf Waterdown, located at 64 Hamilton Street North in Waterdown, Ontario. If you're looking for Canada's top cannabis stop, look no further than Alex and his crew at Spirit Leaf Waterdown. Alex and his crew will help you out with all your THC and CBD products you need. Online curbside pickup is available, and don't forget to like our Instagram and theirs, and you'll save some money. We are also sponsored by Project XGuard. Project XGuard is an amazing program helping underprivileged youth get connected with jiu-jitsu. So if you know anybody who might benefit from this program, reach out to us or Project XGuard and we'll help them get connected to some amazing instructors. Thanks everybody, and enjoy the show.
I wasn't depressed. I was just
Wow.
like you can't compete. You can't go see people. It's like you're at home. You're stuck, and it's like
Can't go for walks. You can't go for a drive. You can't.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Ontario, so no comment.
No comment.
No comment. But
Right.
well,
But
like
we've been there, so I'm not exactly like feeling too sorry for you. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like you were living in the Rakumo age. Let's kill everybody in a nursing home. Let's have the craziness of the pandemic, the epic center, as they say, the rest of the world.
Epic center. That's
Epic Center. I don't know if it's anything.
Epic Center. That's a good one.
Epic. Sorry,
That's a good one.
that was New York City, and that was where you were. But we're joined today by Mr. Max. How you doing, my friend? It's been a minute.
It's been a very long time. I don't think I've talked to you in what feels like a decade.
Time. I know. It seems
honestly.
like it.
Now, for everybody that knows, Aaron, if you forgot, this is Max.
I didn't.
I know your memory might be a little bit fuzzy, but maybe the last time that you two met each other, you might have been regaining consciousness somehow. Max, can you explain that one?
No.
No. That wasn't the last time. That was.
He's like, I remember.
No.
I'll tell you.
No. I remember. It wasn't the last time. No.
No, it wasn't last time. It was actually one of the first times.
Yeah.
It was. I want to say it was 2010. Abu Dhabi Pro Trials in Montreal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I know this. I actually had to look it up. So Aaron and I got matched up in maybe like the first or second round.
Yeah.
And I was only doing one move at the time, which was the lehiva to the back and the choke. That's all I knew how to do. And it just happened to have worked that day. And Tony Isaacs, I don't know if you've ever had Tony on the podcast, but Tony was reffing that match.
We have like a long
You have? Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
Tony was reffing that match, and he told me in no uncertain terms, get the F away from him now. And then that's when I would go and, let Aaron come to his senses a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad because I remember and again, I remember that to this day, and it was, you took the back. I was trying my best to get out of it. And I remember being choked, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. I'm really stuck. And I remember trying to reach up to grab the elbow, and then all I remember is still rolling. And then I remember my head spinning, and then I was like, how is this match still going on? And then Tony was like, hey, yeah, you need to get up. I'm like, what happened? He's like, you went out. I'm like, no. He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that was like second. It was either a second or maybe even first blue belt tournament I had. So it was
yeah, because it was blue belt for sure. And it was, that was the first time I'd been put out in competition too. And that's why it was such a shock. And I was like, oh my God, I need to go away. And it was like that whole, because the Abu Dhabi trial was at the, I don't remember what the Coliseum was called.
I can't remember the
anymore.
arena, but it's the Montreal one. Oh,
it's in Montreal, but yeah.
There's a lot of judo tournaments there. I think it's like Pierre Carbonneau Center or something like that.
Yes,
Yes, that's what it was, right? And it was so it was intimidating for me because I'd never been in an atmosphere like that before, where it was like you go on the floor and there's stands and people are overlooking and there's no coaching, because the coaching had to be like by the wall and it's far, so you can't really hear. And I remember Seiji was trying to coach me, but it didn't work. So
it happens.
Right? Hey, that's the learning curve, right?
The funny thing is that after that, and this is the one that really got to me, was the next time we saw each other was when Marco Costa posted something like, "Hey, I have a guy who wants to go compete at sub-only tournament in Rochester, New York, and he doesn't want to go by himself. Can somebody go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go." Right? I don't know who's going, but I'll go. So here we are, first time after the chokeout, right? At like 6 a.m. in the morning, Aaron pulls up, and in my head, I'm like, "Man, this is going to be awkward as hell." So I get in the car. And I still remember he's driving a Civic, right? And we start driving, and Aaron just goes, "Yeah, man, it's cool." And I'm like, oh, "Okay, yeah, it's cool. All right. You know, you should see Inception." I'm like, "Okay, I'll go watch Inception now." And then the rest of the ride was cool. But it was so awkward at first. I was getting
I bet. No. But like, I remember it was just like, we'll probably end up in the bracket or two or at that sub-X. That was a U.S. grappling sub-X tournament in, again, Rochester, New York, and Webster or whatever. And we cross over into the border, and they're like, "So where are you going?" They're like, "We're going to a jiu-jitsu tournament." I go, "What?" And they were just kind of like, "What are you going to do there?" I'm like, "We're going to go compete and then we'll come back." And that's it. And they were like, "Okay, sure, whatever. These guys are losers."
No shopping? No shopping. Weird.
You guys aren't shopping? You're not going to Buffalo?
Yeah. No, they all think that we go shopping. Happened multiple times.
Yeah. But the funny thing about that tournament, it was one of those tournaments where they didn't have like mats. There's no like bordering or anything like that to the actual matches. It was just basically they had a ref. This is your spot on the mat. Go. And basically, like, if you end up in like other people's rolling spaces, the idea was to let the matches go because it's submission only. There's no points. So it's the whole idea of just continuously rolling. And there was like what, I don't remember if it started with gi or no gi first. And it was no gi first. Okay. It was no gi first. And then it was like Max and I both had like some really good matches, and again, some that went really like short, or there are a couple long ones. And I think you and I ended up having like a 25-minute match.
Yeah, it was like half an hour. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the one where it was like, oh Jesus Christ, here we go.
I don't even remember what happened.
So this is your first sub only, and it was your last after like the half an hour debacle.
I was broken after that.
Yeah.
Like after that tournament, I was broken just because of the amount of like rolling we actually did at like competition level. And it was just like, but like some of the matches were quick, because I remember in the gi part, a lot of guys were wrestlers and they weren't in training in the gi, and I was able to catch up with a couple of like really quick submissions. And then Max caught this one guy that was being a dick the whole time. And then Max ended up getting him and choked him out like it was like the second or third round. And he was so pissed off.
I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. I wish I could. Oh, well, yeah, that was a good tournament. That was a really good tournament.
That was all fun.
Good old days driving to US without health insurance. My wife looks at me now. She's like, knowing what you know now, would you ever do it? I'm like, no.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think about that. I was like, yeah, we would have just drove back. Like, we would. Yeah. I'm like, no, we're not going to the fucking hospital. Like, we'll fucking drive you home.
So, in theory, if somebody like broke their leg, broke their arm, throw them in the car, get across the border.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to declare? Shit, my ankle.
Yeah, like things have happened, medical related things I've seen happen to Canadians, and they will essentially ignore it if they don't have health insurance and try to just kind of like leave me alone. I will deal with it when I deal with it. No details, no names, but I've seen it happen, and it's not fun. It's not fun there.
You know what though? Actually, I remember Max with you, because I think you came with.
Yeah, because that's why I don't want to mention names or.
Yeah, no, we're not going to mention names, but we went to Detroit at one point, and then something happened to a guy, and we had to call an ambulance, the whole deal. And we ended up just like, are we going to go? I was prepared to drive because I drove. I'm like, I'll drive to Windsor right now if we need to. And they're like, no, we're not going. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Like, as long as you're okay, like, we'll stay. If we need to go, we'll go.
I'm going to have to let him out because...
yeah, go for it.
Hold on. That's a new development.
So, that dog sounds like it's going to eat me any second. So, Aaron, how did it feel like having your soul leave your body from Max's hands?
Hey.
It's okay. It was fine.
That dog literally sounds like it can eat
playing. This is awful. This is going to totally make it onto the podcast.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, there you
this
go.
Dog is going to eat me.
That's the new development in my life.
Woo, look at that.
Oh, there you go. Nice doggy. What's the dog's name?
He does not like our neighbors. Anyway.
What's the dog's name?
His name is Jasper. So we named him after a national park in Canada. He's a rescue.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Jasper in Alberta. Shout out to Alberta.
Shout out to
I've
Alberta.
been to Jasper. Jasper's a beautiful, beautiful mountain.
Yeah, very.
Did some
It's a
hiking in there.
pain in the ass to drive out there, but it's beautiful.
Depends where you live, I guess.
Because you can't really fly into it. You have to fly either to like Edmonton or Calgary, and then you have to drive.
Actually, it's probably better for anybody who's interested. It's probably better to fly into Calgary.
Yeah.
Go west, go to Banff, like do all that area.
Yeah.
And then drive the Icefields Parkway, which is rated like one of the most beautiful drives in the world, and then just see everything on the way. There's tons to see.
I did that whole thing. I think weren't you in Alberta at one point? I think I tried to message you.
I was right before here. I
like,
moved from Ontario to Alberta for 2 years for my clinical fellowship, and then I went back out east here. So I've been here for now, a year and a half, maybe a little bit more. So yeah, that's bounced back a little bit.
So for those listening to this, yes, you've done jiu-jitsu, active competitor. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What were you studying? What's the deal with Max these days?
What's the deal with Max? I used to compete quite a bit. I think up until purple, and then I sort of semi-stopped when I was a brown belt. I got my brown belt in Guelph with Rob Veltman, and then went to Toronto BJJ because it was fairly close and a good school to where I lived in Toronto for a while. So it was 3 years. Had to take some breaks for career/life related reasons. But I continued to ref a lot. So I try to stay involved, at least in that way. So even if you're not training, you kind of want your mind to still be involved in what's the newest thing that kids are doing these days. Eventually moved out to Calgary, trained there for a bit. Had another injury that was kind of unfortunate. It was right before I was going to compete in their provincials at brown belt. So that didn't happen, of course. So I had to nurse that injury for a long time. And then when I moved here in New York, I decided to join Marcelo. I wanted the gym, and it just kind of felt right when I went for a trial with Marcelo. But I work here in a hospital. I'm a clinical scientist doing genetic testing, specifically looking at cancer predisposition disorders. So I'm with one of their cancer hospitals here, analyzing data for people that are at risk or those that have cancer, trying to understand if it's genetic or sporadic. So that's a little bit about me. Hoping to go back to training again. This time at Marcelo.
At Marcelo, are you still going to be in New York City?
Yeah. I don't have any plans to move anyway. Never say never, but I didn't think I was going to be here. If you asked me 1.5 or 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't know. Well, a little bit more because my interview was beforehand. But prior to the interview, I had no plans really to move to New York. Didn't think that was even on the radar. And then things just kind of happened in a way that put me here. So now I'm in New York, living and hopefully one day training.
So what's kind of like the situation in New York nowadays, especially when it comes to like gyms or even jiu-jitsu gyms? Like, what's the pulse there now?
So I honestly, I missed the last Zoom meeting that Marcelo did. I was present for the first one, but that was during the time when everything was shut down anyway. So he sent out an email essentially saying that they do plan to reopen in some form, way, or shape in May, so May 15th. The vaccination has been pretty decent here, like vaccination rate and the general uptake. We get these cards. Actually, I have one right here. We get these like cards to say that, you know, you're vaccinated, you're freer to do things that you want to do, although you still want to, you know, mask on and stuff. So we're waiting to see what that's going to look like. A lot of the regular gyms are open and they have things like capacity restrictions. They try to not only limit the number of people, so you kind of pre-book your sessions, but you have to work out with your mask on. Like you don't take it off. You take every precaution. You try to sanitize your hands and all that kind of stuff. But it sounds like we'll have some form of training in May. Really, dude? Jesus. Yeah. He does not like our neighbors. It's only like one neighbor that he really doesn't like.
It's a big dog. We're leaving this in, by the way.
He's not even that big. Like, that's the funny part. He sounds very intimidating. He's just really scared most of the time.
We're gonna get a dog. We're gonna get a dog at some point, and like it could be like the fluffiest thing ever because my wife, you know, she has some allergies to dogs, so we're looking for something hypoallergenic. So imagine
there's
like
no such thing.
No such thing.
No, there's no such thing.
Yeah,
but it's a myth. Sorry,
it's a myth.
It's a myth. Sorry to break it to you.
Sorry to break it to me. Wow. Yeah. I'm fine, but
most allergens are shed as dandruff, and it just depends on how much dandruff your dog sheds.
Some dogs shed more than others.
Yeah. But unless you are specifically allergic to like the undercoat for whatever reason, or some sort of specific protein that's very specific to a certain breed or maybe a group of breeds, it's very, very, very unlikely that any dog will be quote unquote hypoallergenic. So there have been studies. Sorry.
There's been studies. You do science.
I do science. Yes, I have known to have done science at various points in my life.
Okay. So speaking of that, so are you fully vaccinated now?
I am. Yeah, I have been since February. You know, by the luck of the draw and just how things have happened, I got lucky enough that, you know, my employer ordered quite a bit of doses. And I was able to get it very, very early. So my second dose came in, I think, first week of February. I've been fully vaccinated since then. But, you know, my wife isn't or hasn't been. She just got her first a week ago or so. So I was still very careful. Like I wasn't trying to just go out, party all of a sudden. Although there are people outside now that you'll see just full on in party mode. As if nothing's going on.
Just YOLOing, as the kids say.
You could call it YOLOing.
YOLOing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Aaron, what are your thoughts on the Ontario vaccination situation? Because Max's dog does not approve of it right now.
No.
Well, I mean, like I've said, like before on other podcasts, I mean, like I think that's kind of the situation where we're in, and this is the way out of it. I mean, the idea is to get everybody vaccinated as quickly as possible. We have a process that is very slow here in Ontario that is not working at the best of speeds. And then we have a total group of individuals who believe that it's a hoax or their body is so super immune to anything that they do not need to put anything into their body, and they expect everybody else to get it so they can do whatever the fuck they want. So, and I mean, like, I'm not educated enough to speak to vaccines itself to say this is what you need and whatever. I mean, it's more of your job, I'll be honest with you, Max, because I've been
wait a minute, Aaron. I thought they changed your DNA. I want to get a DNA transcriber to, like, you know, be, you know, 6'7", 350, just a ball of muscle. I don't even need jiu-jitsu technique at that point. When is that going to be available?
Not anytime soon. Although, you know, there are some technologies in early developmental stages that probably do that.
Yeah, and in Marvel comic books, that would be called super soldier serum. Like
we're
that.
about to
Exactly.
get Spider-Man anytime now.
Ah, perfect. So we're rocking.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're in fun times where we have to, convince people to take vaccinations, which is quite interesting. But yeah, here we are.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess people have their reasons, whether you agree with them or not. I've read some things where I'm like, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I guess I'm all for choice, but at the same time, like if some of the reasons that are being given like don't really make sense, then I don't know.
We all abide by certain rules, all of us. We don't get a choice.
We don't get a choice.
We don't. I mean, that's just the illusion, right? It's, even here, where it's like the gospel, it still is not true. There's certain things that you just don't get a choice. You pay your taxes, like that's it. You don't get a choice whether you want to do it or believe in it or not. I don't care how much of a libertarian you are. Same thing with vaccines, kind of, just in a different way.
I'll be getting mine eventually. It just might be like another year the way Ontario's going, because there seems to be a bit of a supply chain issue.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear that's been a real bottleneck there, and it's very unfortunate. I wish that it weren't the case, but it is. And here I honestly felt bad when I was getting my vaccine, and even though I went in at like 6 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday because that was an opening, and they gave me an opening, and they said, if you want yours, come in early on Saturday, we'll give it to you. I'm like, sure, no problem. So I did, and the nurse that was giving it to me, right, she asked me that very poignant question of, also, you work here, right? So do you see patients? And in my head, I'm like, no. I stare at the data on the computer screen. I feel so awful right now.
So selfish, taking it away from
very
somebody.
I felt extremely selfish. And mind you, it wasn't entirely selfish in that I am one link in the chain now that could be broken. So if I do get it, the chances are I don't spread it very far or at all.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's the difference between like you being sick for like 2 weeks,
right,
off and on, and like, or you just wake up one day and you have the sniffles for a day or two, and then you're good.
Exactly, and you never know. It's one of those things that I mean I understand the whole concept of not living in fear of it, given the percentages when it comes to complications. But at the same time, I have a friend here who's anesthesiology resident. So he's been performing his fair share of intubations of COVID patients, and he once sent a text. This was a few weeks back, and he said, I'm right now sitting with a guy who I cannot extubate because he had COVID and his lungs are shot, and he was otherwise like mid-40s, perfectly healthy. And we don't know why, but that's just the reality. Like, this guy is not coming off of the ventilator, and it's kind of over. So I don't really know what to do. And tell us that. So just because, you don't have comorbidities, stuff like that, there's still, yes, it's a small chance, but there's still a chance that something may happen. So being careful is more of a courtesy than anything at this point for me. Again, I could get it. I know that I'm very, very, very unlikely to have complications given my vaccination, but the last thing I want is to pass it on. Like, that's just my feeling about it. I would feel awful if I knew that my carelessness or some sort of not respecting others in some way resulted in completely unnecessary death. Like, it just would feel awful.
Yeah. Well, my wife's uncle is also an anesthesiologist, so he's been working in the epic center of Florida, as Aaron's been saying. So he's been working with several Florida mans down in Florida, but he's been saying the same stories of, like, people coming in, no core mobility is just somebody who's just overall healthy, mid-40s, maybe early 50s, and then they're just completely shot. He's the one who's basically like putting them on a ventilator, and basically, as you said, he's the one who's pretty much setting them up for, well, certain death, I guess you can say.
Yeah, in some way. Yeah.
So
it has not been a fun
kinda,
year and a half. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just agreed. Hasn't been fun.
Okay. So like kind of in your opinion, especially like being in New York where things have been shut down, obviously you have a vaccination program that's running rapidly compared to something that's not running here at all. But at one point there was no vaccines going out. So you guys were all locked down like everybody else, right? Do you kind of agree that, or disagree, is that kind of the mentality you have to take and kind of lock people and limit mobility in order to control spread? Or is it, and obviously there's the repercussions of that are businesses being shut down, people not being able to make an income. Obviously the government has some role in control, and I think they have to have some form of responsibility to assist individuals who need assistance based on employment or whatever because they can't make an income. Or is it just open it up and just, it's kind of like fittest of survival lives, right? So
basically what Aaron is saying, lockdown, yes or no, or freedom guns, America, Florida.
So lockdown and assistance. Hold on, I'll just speak to both. So as far as lockdowns go, so New York, as you said, was the epicenter of the pandemic. So I started working from home in March last year. Luckily, I have a wife who is educated and informed enough to basically say, hey, get your butt home and you're staying home. I don't care what you have to do. Make it happen. So I ended up, getting my monitor from work. I dragged it over. So I have a second monitor and I started working from home right away. And then the lockdown order came. At the time when it happened, New York was hitting something like 800 deaths a day. So this is the city, not the state. So the state,
just New York City, you're talking
New York
about.
City was 800 deaths a day. And at the time, we didn't quite know yet how to deal with the virus. Like there's been some improvements on managing it better. So the death rate is much, much lower now, even though the case rate is about the same. So the number of cases in New York in January and February, I think, was about the same as at the peak back in last March, April. But I think the death rate is like 1/10. So it's definitely better. And then you can look at the curves, like all this data is public. You can go on the New York City website. They publish all the numbers and you can see the lockdown measure happened like late April, I believe. And all the curves just went down to a halt. I think July, we had some days with 0 deaths. There were still cases, of course, hundreds, but 0 deaths for a number of days. So do lockdowns work? I mean, yes. You can look at New Zealand, you can look at Australia. They squashed their waves pretty quickly by just locking things down. But the other side of it is that, the concept of giving assistance to those who need it, primarily financial assistance, and it can come in many forms. I'm not a policy expert, right? I don't know what works best. And actually, I know I spoke to Mike about this, but the same thing has been said by Marcelo, right? When he had his Zoom meeting, Marcelo said, I'm not a policy expert. I don't want to talk about whether lockdowns are correct or not correct and how they're being implemented, but let's just figure out how to survive this. And that's the part of the equation that seems to be missing, at least in Ontario. It's the assistance, is to try to avoid unnecessary business closures. And I can tell you, New York, it's been awful. The number of storefronts, the number of vacant rentals is through the roof and has been for a while. Some of our favorite places to, get takeout from, like the first restaurant we visited when we came here for my job interview is now closed. And then that was kind of like a special little place that, you would remember, Cambodian cuisine place like a block away. And now it's closed. There's a bunch of things that are closed. We see the for rent, for sale, for whatever signs everywhere. But at the same time, we had one of our staff members in our building that died from COVID. So, how do you balance that? That's somebody's dad. And he was like, I think he was like mid-50s. He wasn't even that old. He really wasn't.
Yeah,
so
I think
it's all a balance. It really is. But doing nothing is probably the worst thing you can do. And that's what I'm afraid of, is a government that's ineffectual, that doesn't do anything.
I think it's the one thing. I think basically you said, and that's the way I kind of see it as well. It's a balancing act. There's a pandemic going on, lots of people are getting sick. Lots of them are dying as well. But I know, but then there's also the other side of it as well is, if you're shutting everything down, there's a lot of issues with that as well. And I think like even outside of that, where it's like, people's mental health suffers, kids' mental health suffers. Like if things are going to open up and we're kind of tying things into like going into jiu-jitsu again, in like a post-pandemic world, or even like now, in theory, if you're going to train from your standpoint, like, can you even train? Like, is there a way of doing it like in the safest way possible to kind of manage risk? Like, what's your take on that whole thing?
I one of the things that I found very surprising is that some states allowed jiu-jitsu tournaments to run. And then you had people that competed without masks, and they would put on masks off the mat. And then I heard stories of the staff everywhere just being kind of lackadaisical about the whole mask wearing thing at the venue anyway. So again, I don't know how many cases are going to be eventually traced back to that and whatnot. How many jiu-jitsu guys will catch COVID and not really care, because a lot of them are young and a lot of them are just going to have it without any complications. But of course, the other side of the equation is that, yes, you might get to do something that you want to do, but I am aware at least of thousands and thousands of seniors in the city here that were afraid to go get groceries because they do have comorbidities and they can't come out. So my wife was volunteering with a group, trying to get just groceries for people. Like, that's all they wanted to do, is just to let people pick up groceries and their pharmacy prescriptions. Since they know that if they do catch it, and the chances are they're not coming out of it alive, and or at least not unscathed. So for me, I would hope that things get rolled out in a way that are responsible enough, and people themselves are just responsible enough to either quarantine themselves when they need to, try to get vaccination as soon as possible to try to prevent spread as much as possible. But at the end of the day, it becomes more of a personal responsibility thing than anything else. You just have to think. You really do have to think about not just what you want to do, but a little bit about what your actions might mean for someone else who is a lot more at risk than you are.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head where you talk about personal responsibility. And I think that's the biggest thing, where it's like individuals have to be responsible to some extent, where it's like, okay, if there's things you want to do, you have to understand where you're going and then what the risks are and then who you're actually interacting with. So if you're going to train, you're going to do rolling, you're going to do X, you're being careful to the extent that, all right, you're putting yourself at risk, but you also have to be careful who you're all going to put at risk moving on forward.
Yeah, and it's who you interact with, who you potentially put at risk. So I personally made a decision that until my wife is fully vaccinated, I am not going to do anything that I feel would potentially put her at risk, whether she has any comorbidities whatsoever or not. It's not important to me. It's just not important enough to me, I suppose. And don't get me wrong, I've been doing this for over a decade, and I would love to go back and finally hammer out the black belt one day. But at the moment, it's just not the reality.
Yeah.
So
how annoyed are you right now that Aaron's a black belt and you're not?
Aaron is one of, like, I would say at this point, like a dozen people that I used to compete at the same level, and some of them I would kick their butt at every level.
And Aaron was one of them, but go on.
Purple, and then all of them are getting their black belts, and here I am nursing like a stupid knee injury, and then moving, and then nursing another stupid knee injury, and I'm watching Facebook. I'm like, oh Jesus, really? This guy gets his black belt. This guy.
Aaron called.
Not Aaron, by the way, not Aaron. But you know, but there's it's quite interesting. Like at a certain point, you kind of want to like, okay, I really need to go on the mats and like put in the time and effort
I need to rectify.
I need to rectify the wrongs that have been done, because there's lots of
like for clarification too, because like again, I stopped training like everybody goes through their ups and downs. Like I stopped training for like good 2 years, and then I basically saw guys getting their black belt, and I was like, okay, I gotta get my ass working again. And that's basically what it was. And that's what my Kickstarter was. So I'm like, okay, I need to get back to work and really start hammering it out. And Mike knows I would send him text messages all the time when I see other guys. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? This guy? And again, yeah, you can't look at it like that anyways, where it's like, you know, everybody puts their time into a certain, like to what they do. Again,
everybody's journey is different, Aaron.
And that's
you can't compare yourself to anybody else, right? Everybody's journey is completely different. And again, circumstances, again, it's all circumstantial, right? But you just got to go with the flow. And don't worry, Max, you'll be there. You were in my shoes.
I know, and don't get me wrong, I at this point, I really, really, really almost don't want to get it, just because of where I'm at. There are enough purple belts that can whoop me pretty hard where I am. I don't need a bigger target on my back. I really don't. So yeah,
that was me at purple belt. Like my 15-year run at purple belt, where I retired. Aaron had to talk me out of it.
Yeah, pull you out.
I just wanted to try to be Mr. Olympia at one point.
No, Mr. Olympia is not my thing. No. I haven't. But yeah, I can't put on weight, good or bad. It just doesn't happen.
I'm at, speaking of weight, Aaron, what are you at now? Like 210, 215?
No, I'm 190. 190. I'm somewhere right there.
I'm actually like 225, 230 right now.
Didn't we compete at like 154 at one point?
154. Yeah. So 154. And then there was one tournament, and I cut myself down to 135, and I was like, I will never do that again.
What the hell are you doing, man?
Exactly.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Did you lose?
It was terrible.
Did you like amputate your leg and then put it back on?
I was like, it was like, you know, when you're young and stupid and you don't know how to weight cut properly, and it's just like you just don't eat food type thing. That's basically what I did. And it was the worst experience ever. And I was able to do it. And then I was like, okay, never again. And then, and then the longest time was like 155 or 155, 154.
162.
Right? Yeah. And then it was like, okay, I'm going 162. And then I'm like, nope, fuck that. I'm going up. Like I'm going under 170. And then so as I've gotten older, I'm like, I go higher and higher in each division. And I'm like, because I just don't like cutting weight. That's really the whole thing. I just hate that. And it's like every time I would cut weight, I feel garbage at tournament because I'm like, I feel like I've lost strength or for whatever reason. And it's like, whenever I'm like heavier, I feel better. So I'm like, I'll just go heavier. And I just have to move faster with these bigger guys. So it either works or sometimes it doesn't.
Because we used to compete at 155-ish. And then I felt like crap for every time I did it. It was not healthy. It really was not healthy. So I went up to the 162, and then I figured out that 162 is a division that is stacked with people who actually know what they're doing. So at tournaments, I would occasionally just be like, oh, I'll go into Mike Breyer's division, because medium heavyweights in that tournament, when I look at the list, they have no idea what they're doing. It's going to be an easy medal. Easy. That's what I'm going to do.
I have the easy division. I think it was a middleweight for like most of my.
No, you've always had monsters in your division.
Yeah,
I just had to dodge like in between like middle, medium, heavy, and heavy. I just had to pick one that was like, oh, that looks the easiest. I'm gonna go with that one.
Oh, Aaron's in that division. Okay, I'm gonna go there.
No, but like in reality though, like Max and I had some pretty good matches. Obviously, the one that he highlight reel me for sure, like put me out. Like,
that wasn't a highlight reel. That was World Star. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like he had that great one, but then we did have some good matches after that, so it was good. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I've over the years of competition, like you've always been a really good, again, competitor that throughout the years. And like, is there kind of like, other than your World Star hip hop knockout of myself, is there any other like matches that like kind of like really kind of sit the, up there for you?
Well, thanks for like dropping that one on me. Jesus, I don't know. There are some like random ones that I've had with really good guys. Like I've competed against Alessandro.
Oh yeah.
Times. I lost them both times, but it was like the weirdest thing because I would do better in a match versus him than when we roll, because when we roll he just kills me, like just destroys my life. I don't know what that's all about, but like I've had good matches with him, which was just enjoyable. Like it was very cool. And from just and not much would have happened in a match like that, but it's just that little that little battle of like grips and stuff that for me was more enjoyable than anything. I guess the one, you know what, I have one, I got one, that's it. Mike, you would know this, it was in the high school. The big dude, the really big dude,
John Tain, I think.
John Tain Hall. That's it. That's the guy. Oh, that was by far. That was the time when you're young and you're really stupid, and you go into a tournament, you medal, and I lose to Alessandro in the final, of course. Then the absolute rolls around, and you're a lightweight. And what do? You go to the organizer and you say, just give me the biggest guy here. I don't care who it is. And the organizer, or the person who was like partially responsible for the bracket was Oscar, right? Oscar de Wendt. I don't know if you guys remember him or know him.
I know Oscar.
I'm sure you know him. But yeah. And Oscar's like
the legendary mortgage consultant there. So if you're looking for a mortgage in the GTA, and Oscar de Wendt, legend.
And Oscar de Wendt goes, I got exactly what you want. And then sure enough, I get John Tain Hall, who is this beast. Like he's a big guy, but he's actually a big muscly dude, right? And he's trying to rip my leg off at one point, and I'm trying to squirm out of it. It was one of those battles for the ages. It was the only time when I had a random person, even though I lost, they came up to me. There was like this young guy. I don't remember him very well, but he came up to me. He's like, dude, that was the most exciting thing I have watched ever. And that was after I lost, because I think we finished the match with me kind of hanging off of his back, and I was trying to get the hook in, and he just grabbed my leg and he would like stuff it down.
You just grabbed your leg and then just straightened his arm.
He's grabbed my leg. He's like, you're not getting this. And in that match, I very clearly remember Mike Briers is sitting in the stands. I put an armbar on John Tain Hall, and this dude is strong enough that he literally picked me up like parallel to the floor, like perpendicular arm, right angle right here, right? And I'm holding off this arm that I cannot extend because this guy's bicep is bigger than my hamstring, I guess. So I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me like, "Boy, you're not getting this. Like, this is not happening. There's no way." And Mike Briers in the stands goes, "Put him down gently. Put him down gently." That was if I had to pick one match, like one moment, that'd be it. That would definitely be it.
Would you have preferred me saying, "Hey, you got to slam your way out of it"?
No, I'm pretty sure I'm not doing all the other career stuff. If he were to slam me at that moment. So I'm really thankful to him for not slamming me, number one, and number two for just producing.
The match would have been ruled a homicide.
I would not be surprised if I would have ended up with some sort of a head injury if he chose to be less nice about it. So kudos to him for not doing it, because there was every chance for him to do it. Just relaxing his shoulder would have done it, I think.
So yeah, I've had an epic encounter with him as well at a no-gi tournament. I think it was a final of like an absolute for a trip. Really, really close match. But like, I think the one thing since we're talking about him, I was very surprised with was I just remember the match. I'm like, okay, this guy's like, okay, he's very like, I've seen him before. He's like, really explosive. Like, I don't think he's maybe, maybe as I didn't give him the credit for like how technically good he was. So like, yeah, he's a big guy. Usually the knock on big guys is like, oh, like they're just big and they can get out of stuff. But like when I was doing a match, when I was competing against him, like I was surprised with like how extraordinarily calm he was when I was like constantly attacking him. He's just like, get off me. Because I was in the same situation as well, where like I'm human backpacking on him, and like he just trying to get a hook in, he just takes a leg. I feel like he's about to leg lock me. I just dive off immediately and bail. Get out. I think there's like one point where I'm about to slide off of his back, and usually what he would like to do is when you slide off, he'll grab a foot and fall back on it immediately. Yeah. I've seen him do that. So immediately I kick him like right in the chest, like as hard as I can. Like I basically like booted him. I flew off. I watched the match after. I flew off. I was in the center of the mat with him. I kicked him so hard. I ended up like hitting almost a barricade, and he didn't even move. I felt like I kicked a wall, and I flew off and I hit the barricade, and he's just looking at me like, you okay?
I feel like I got him like when we had our match. I think I had that match when he was still maybe earlier on in his like blue belt days.
Yeah.
So he wasn't, I suppose, technically as sharp as he got, but like there was skill there that was underneath all of it, but just the base physicality was so incredible that when he did get more skilled, and it didn't take a whole lot, he just became a beast. Like he would destroy guys at tournaments that I thought he would have no shot against. But he definitely got really good really fast. I remember that. I think if somebody gave me a choice maybe a few months later, I would have politely declined and just took my little silver from lightweight and went home. Like,
He's the biggest guy. You see him? No, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Where's another one? Or shout out to Sean Kent if you're listening to this. But that was, I think, one absolute match that I did where similar to what you is where. So I had my first match. It was just crazy back and forth. I ended up triangling. We ended up submitting a guy, and then the next round, like I'm completely dead, and I'm like lying down because I had like a war with somebody, and then like I look straight ahead, and it's like I'm gonna have to fight that guy, aren't I? I didn't even look at the bracket. Sean Kent.
For those listening, I think he's like 320.
About that, yeah. He's over three. He's well over 300 pounds.
Yeah, he's over 300, and he knows what he's doing. So it's anytime you have a 250 plus knows what he's doing, just take the knee. Just take the knee.
Yeah, take the knee. Aaron, do you remember your time with Mr. Kent in an absolute division?
I don't think I.
Yeah, that was recently, wasn't it?
No, that was you, Aaron. Yeah. You did. We'll talk about Aaron. So, Aaron had to.
Aaron.
Aaron was on the unfortunate end of.
Yeah. No, it was just a GTA Classic, like 2019 or whatever it was, because I had won my first match in the absolute, and then out of all the guys I ended up getting was Mr. Kent, and holy fuck. It's just a truck, right? I have a picture, which is pretty cool picture, where it just shows the sheer size of this man, like on like us going. And I remember I kind of decided, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move around a little bit. I'm gonna try and shoot in for a single and do an ankle pick or something like that. And it felt like running into a truck. like I ran into a wall and I was like, okay, that was a bad idea. Okay, let's keep moving around. And then I don't even remember I don't even know what my thought process was. And I tried to pull guard and get under him for like an X or something like that. And then he just squished on top of me. And I was like, oh shit, this isn't good. And again, he's got skill too. And that's the thing. He knows how to move. And I'm like, oh, he's totally crushing through my half guard. Oh shit, he's totally crushing through everything. And I couldn't stop him. And he got on top of me, got my arm. And I'm like, okay, I can't wiggle my way out. I have to wait till because he's got all his weight on me. I can't move. And I'm like, I'm going to wait till he moves, and then I'm going to pull my arm out. And then he goes to roll over for the arm bar. I'm trying to pull my arm out as hard as I can. And he's got it like locked on a jaw. I can't get it out. I'm like, oh shit, I'm really fucked right now. Like, so I try to jump over. I'm like, oh no, he's gonna break my arm. I better tap. Like, I tap. I'm like, nope, not worth it. But yeah, like he's got some skill, 100%. Even for a guy that as big as him, like he has skill. He knows how to move, and he just knows how to use his body the way he wants to.
You just gotta catch these guys at like white belt, like early blue belt.
Yeah.
After that, yeah, it's okay. You guys can go ahead, do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, like in retro, as I look back on it now, like I should have kept it standing, like in and out, try and make him take me down or whatever, and just try to avoid him and then catch him.
You're gonna single leg him. You're the size of his leg.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, what is going through your head here?
I was going through the whole.
What's
thing.
your mindset, Aaron? What's your mindset?
I was like, I'm going to do something that he's not going to expect, and I'm going to try to take him out. And I'm going to hit my 2 points. That was my mindset. I'm like, I'm going to do something he doesn't think a rational person will try to do. And that's what I did. It didn't work.
You got that part of the equation correct. The irrationality of that person. Yeah, you got that. You got to be like a Div 1 wrestler to have that kind of
it was bad.
confidence.
It was wrong strategy, 100%. As I look back on it now, totally the wrong strategy.
So then with that said, I'm going to throw it out to everybody. If you are in an absolute division and you're facing somebody twice your size, strategically, what is the best way of handling that?
You keep it standing and you stall it until he gets tired, hopefully, and then go from there, I guess.
I mean, yeah, like either you could shoot for legs, but you probably are more likely to have success with things like low singles, stuff that is a little bit more dynamic. I would absolutely not shoot a high single. That seems a recipe for getting pancaked, which I'm assuming what happened.
Very bad.
Yeah, I got that part. And if you're gonna pull guard, I mean, I suppose it has to be a really good open guard. Like your guard better be amazing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just gonna get squished.
I think I pulled guard on both of those gentlemen where I was just spinning and moving everywhere and flip flopping all of. No, I just kept spinning, moving. I think if you're gonna pull guard on, somebody who's significantly larger than you, you need to have proper frames and structure in place. Yeah. Like I wouldn't play half guard with anybody twice your size. It's probably not a good idea. So it's got to be like a De La Riva spider, keep feet on the hips. Don't let them crush you. So like you need to support them with your legs. Otherwise, like I would say even
grip breaking better be like levels above. Essentially.
And you better have some solid grip breaking, or like sweep wise, like if you're standing, you're looking for like an arm drag and you're looking to get around the person. I think that's probably the best way of dealing with it. So I think I was trying to tell Aaron like, hey, like you should arm drag, go to the back, but he doesn't listen to me. He just spazzes toe holds after a minute into competing.
Oh, that sounds very much like Aaron. I'll be honest. That sounds very Aaron to me. Yeah.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. You shoot or shoot, man. Shoot or shoot.
Shoot your shoot. You're like Ricky with all the Aaronisms. That's what you shoot your shoot. Epic center.
No. Shooters shoot. Shooters shoot.
Shoot your shot. Shoot your shot, Aaron. You gotta shoot your shot.
Calm down. I got it.
Your internet connection sucks.
No, I pay my bills with my serve check, so don't worry. So kind of wrapping things up.
Sure.
Max, so what 5 years, when this pandemic's over, when COVID ever goes away, which I don't think it will, but what is jiu-jitsu going to look like in the future? Like, is it going to be a thing? Like, what are the trends? How can people train safely? Like, give me your thoughts from like a biology standpoint. Like what can be done?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, it's going to depend a little bit on how effective the vaccine is, and how we adapt to the new normal. Which the latest, some of the latest news that I've seen regarding vaccine is that we'll have to get boosters 6 months after your initial dose, I think, or second dose. So once that's rolled out, I don't really see it going away. I think there are enough people that are dedicated to it. Is it going to take a hit? Probably. I think a lot of things are going to take a hit as a result of this, and a lot of things have already taken a hit. So there's going to be a slower take up, perhaps more hesitation from your average Joe to come in and, short of exchanging bodily fluids, be in the most intimate setting with another human being for extended periods of time. So
hold on, you're making jiu-jitsu sound like a porno. Jeez.
I'm not.
In ways it is. Ripping people's clothes open.
You're hugging grown adults for hours on end every week. Like that's what you're doing, essentially. And yes, that's probably going to detract some people from trying it out, at least initially, if there's some sort of a risk. Do I think that it's going to stay that way? Probably not. I do think that at a certain point, and I'm really hoping for that to become true, herd immunity will kick in. You'll have enough people vaccinated that COVID will essentially be kind of a background noise. It'll always be there, most likely, based on how things are going. It'll be mutating. There'll be some strains. We'll have to squash them. It's back and forth, but at the end of the day, I mean, I have full confidence in coming back to the mat, rehabbing my knee finally after that thing being canceled right as the COVID hit, which is amazing. And, getting back to training, I really don't think that it's kind of the end of days now, just because we have this pandemic. It'll just require a little bit of effort on just what everybody's part to try to get back to normal, or at least the new normal, whatever that's going to look like.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, by the way.
No, it answers it. What did you end up doing to your knee? Because I know I've shared my knee injury story where Aaron was a witness to me, basically.
A week before the tournament, I decided to do my best, I don't know who impersonation, but I decided to go for this super awesome flying, diving thing where I take someone's back as they are about to do a sit out. So I'm on their back. They're trying to do a sit out. I kind of try to dive in, but them doing a sit out while I do that is that my knee ends up going into the mat straight on. And I didn't know that Pcl is a ligament.
I did.
Yeah. So nice. I sprained my PCL pretty badly. It wasn't a complete tear, but it was a significant tear. I can't remember what the wording was in the report.
Second degree tear, MRI report.
I don't know which degree it was, but let's just say I could feel it moving. It wasn't like a little a little pop and just swelling. I still have some instability and now some tightness in the knee that I have to work out. But so that was my initial one, and then I had another sprain in the LCL on the same side. So just been kind of a bummer knee. It should just go away, and I could train for a little bit long, few months at a time. Unfortunately, that's just how it's been.
Yeah, so your PCL, you really got to do a really good job of screwing that up, because it's I think that ligament's triple the thickness of your ACL. So you really got to do something stupid to break it.
Yeah. So that gives you an idea. And it was I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. I was going for flash over substance. I should have just taken side control instead of doing this flying back take crap that I did. What was I thinking? Yeah, to this day, I wish I could have that day back. I really do.
Yeah, it always turns out that way. You always end up hurting yourself in the stupidest way, where it's or the most simplest way. It's either one of the two. It's either really stupid or it's very simple. And it's never just like actually like kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. It probably should have hurt then. Or it's like you fell down the stairs by accident because something gave out or did something stupid.
If I didn't tap to a heel hook because 10,000 on the line and I thought my knee was worth $10,000 or ligament, then I could be like, yeah, you know, that was my choice. But that one, oh, I was so unimpressed with myself to this day.
That's one you definitely want back.
Oh, absolutely.
That's okay. But, well, I do hope that that knee's good to go. So eventually you can train again properly and finally get that black belt, buddy. It's coming down the road soon.
You know, I'm not in a hurry. I really am not.
And don't be, right?
I'm not either. I'm not either, Aaron.
Nah.
I only joke about it. I honestly, like, I don't think, some of us anyway, we're not really doing it for like, I need to get my black belt and then I have to be young and healthy and try to like win the black belt worlds. Like that's no longer the case for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm way too old, way too broken.
Your priorities have changed, to say the least.
Yes, the priorities have changed for a lot of us, unfortunately. You know, life catches up with you, has a funny way of catching up with you.
No, for sure. Well, Max, it's been an awesome time catching up with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, it's been great. Again, like I said, I think it's been like 10 years. So it's great to catch up. Years. And yeah, so, and unfortunately, it's had to be through only like a COVID Zoom call, but hopefully down the road, we'll be able to actually meet up in person and then go from there.
Just let me know when you get your second vaccine. I'll fly down. To test out the
it'll be 2022.
I thought you said once you got that second vaccine, he's going to test something else. He's going to like put you in the genetic.
No. I'll go test that black belt that Aaron got. See what it's made
that's
of.
Fine. Exactly.
I've
gotten better.
Usually whenever Aaron gets frustrated with me, he just starts spamming toe holds. So from like any position, he's like, Mike, I've had enough of your shit. I'll give up my back, but I'm going to latch onto your toe and your foot and I'm not letting go.
That sounds very Aaron to me. Yeah.
It does sound very Aaron.
Gotta take risks in these days. It's okay. Track, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Max,